So, John,
Yes,
good to see you today, brother.
You too. And we're here to talk about what today?
We're here to talk about Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, you said?
Yes.
Led Zeppelin, you said?
That's exactly what I
Led
said.
Zeppelin, you said?
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm not doing anything subversive with you. Okay, we'll throw
There's
off
my
that.
shirt.
Probably the most common Led Zeppelin shirt you'll see out there. It's the infamous 1971 tour shirt is what that's based on. I mean, you pick it up at Target for crying out loud. So I don't know why you didn't go buy it.
I don't know why I didn't go buy it today, guys.
Right, you could have went there. They have them, hundreds of them.
I was telling John today that I was looking for about an hour for my Led Zeppelin shirt, and then it occurred to me that I don't have a Led Zeppelin shirt.
We'll have to rectify that, right?
Yeah, John's the one that has a Led Zeppelin shirt, not me. I need to go and get one, just like he said, that's for sure. But yeah, man. So talking about Led Zeppelin, one of my favorite bands of all time. We mentioned last week about Rush. That's my favorite band of all of them. But Led Zeppelin is in my top 5. That's for sure. You've got, I talk about drums all the time. And, with Led Zeppelin, you've got one of the best drummers out there, John Bonham.
Little unorthodox.
Yep.
Beat the hell out of those drums.
He did. He did. But he created a lot of the double bass sound on one bass. A lot of the bands out there have a double bass, and and that's fine. It looks good, whatever. And if that's the way you want to play is double bass, that's all fine and dandy. But there was something about John Bonham, and with him having one bass and a double pedal, I guess he had a double pedal, John. I don't know. It sure sounds like.
I would have to look at some of the live footage. I cannot remember, but it wouldn't surprise me at all because now all you see, especially these metal bands, they're all playing the double pedal now.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
Yeah. His drums sounded like thunder.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys now double pedal, each pedal hitting 2 bass drums too.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
That's a very common thing out there.
Yeah, definitely. And he was drinking, he was doing drugs while he was playing the drums, which is amazing that you can do that and still be able to play the drums and keep a beat. But yeah, he fits so good into Led Zeppelin, and I'm thinking that he was the only drummer for Led Zeppelin. That was it. It was just him. John Bonham came in there, and that was it. Of course, Jason Bonham is his son, and his son's doing a great job, as well. But anyway, I don't want to sit here and talk about drummers all the time or anything like that. But like to me, John, their music was incredible. Robert Plant is still around. John Paul Jones is still around. Jimmy Page. It's just unfortunate we lost John Bonham at an early age.
1980 to be exact.
1980. There you go. This guy knows his stuff, let me tell you. So, and they also play like with other bands, like the Foo Fighters. They were when Foo Fighters were at Wimbledon. They all joined. John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and I don't think Robert Plant, I think, came there too. So I don't know, but it was just an incredible event, that's for sure. But anyway, so tell me, what's your favorite albums, and what do you like about Led Zeppelin, John?
What I absolutely love about Led Zeppelin is some people would consider them to be the start of heavy metal, hard rock, maybe Black Sabbath, maybe Blue Cheer, all those in there. I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. The first album is a little bit more blues-based, let's say, but let's be honest. They went on tangents, and there was always some blues-incorporated songs or some covers in almost all of their albums, okay? But they went on some tangents wherever they really wanted to go with the music. Jimmy Page being the wizard of the guitar. I don't claim to play a little guitar. I mean, enough to hurt myself, to be honest with you. But people that know, the professional guitarists and things like that know far more than I do about that. Is there were different tunings of guitars, is what Page used. It was very kind of complex, multiple instrumentation. He used acoustic, 12-string, electric. so on and so forth. Then he'd also use it in a live setting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't say it was all just, you know, hard rocking songs. I mean, obviously they had some great anthems over time, and things of that nature. But it definitely was not just quote unquote like a Black Sabbath. Everything Black Sabbath did was just, you know, driving, you know, hard rock. Led Zeppelin, there were ballads, there were, I mean, all kinds of different things. You can also even say some of their songs were even progressive in nature. Like we were talking about Rush last week.
Oh, yeah.
You know, progressive in nature. But, you know, for me, to name a favorite album, truthfully, I like all their, let's forget about all the live stuff for now, but let's talk about studio albums. I like I should say, and adore every single one of the albums aside from Coda. But Coda was also an album that was released after the death of John Bonham that just kind of had outtakes and tracks from other albums that weren't used.
Yeah.
And that's what Coda was made up of. It had the song, it was the B-side. It was the first time, if I remember the Immigrant song?
Yes. Yeah.
And there was a song, I'm trying to think of what it was, that was the B-side to the Immigrant song. Being the B-side to the Immigrant song, it was only on a 45.
Okay.
So it wasn't on an album proper till it hit Coda. And that one, give me 1 second and I'll find it. But it was only, it was Hey Hey, What Can I Do?
Oh, yes. Great song.
So I remember kind of, as a young man, going to thrift stores and this and that, searching for that 45, because at the time, it was only the B-side and the Immigrant song.
Yes.
Which should have been on what? Zeppelin 3 is where the Immigrant song was?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't on Zeppelin 3. So it came out on Coda.
On the B
because the B-side, they released it on Coda because it was only a B-side of
which
45.
they should, because it was a phenomenal song.
Well, exactly.
Still is.
So, you know, that kind of, there's a few other bits and pieces on Coda, but not a cohesive album because it was never meant to be an album. It was just what they had from different sessions over time. And if memory serves me, I think it was even a live, 1 or 2 live cuts on that album. Definitely not horrible. But for me, the canon of Led Zeppelin, every one of those albums all the way through Into the Outdoor were great.
Oh, yeah.
That one's just not great.
Yeah.
And because it's a hodgepodge of things. So, you know, I mean, no problem with that. But, and then you had their several, what was the Song Remains the Same, which was a awesome live album. But during their years, that was it. You know, went through there in between. That was the live album. That was the only one, you know, the bootlegs I used to see around. And then, you know, last one being Into the Outdoor. And then Coda was the very last one. So, you know, as far as favorite albums, like I said, every one of them, you know, other than, you know, Coda, like I said, was just piecemeal.
You know what was really cool, though, too, John, is you were mentioning about Jimmy Page. You know, I mean, he's a world-class guitarist, that's for sure. But, you know, the guy on a solo that he's doing is playing the boat.
Right. I forgot.
I mean, come on. Right. I mean, it sounded great. And I mean, you know, Moby Dick, that's a classic one. That's where you get to hear, guys, that's where you get to hear John Bonham just go off, basically. John Bonham, he played with his hands sometimes. And in Moby Dick, he played with his hands.
Okay, not using sticks at all, is that what you're saying?
Not using, well, he uses sticks. And then when it comes down time to do the whole drum solo, he's like sitting there and just playing with his freaking hands on his toms. And that's unheard of. There's nobody that does that. Nobody.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like you had, like, you know, the bongo drums or anything like that. But I mean, the guy had a freaking timpani in the back of him, you know, and he just, I mean, on Moby Dick, he used that too. So all-time favorite drum solo, I would say Moby Dick on that one, you know. But, you know, one thing you were mentioning too is that Led Zeppelin had a very diverse kind of sound and everything. They even did a country song, you know, called Hot Dog.
All right.
You know,
Right.
Hot Dog, and then you know, they did a swing song. You know, I think it was called "Fool in the Rain." Fool in the Rain.
Sure.
So you know, they did that, and Cashmere.
I mean, you can't. What is that? I mean, it's a great song, but what I mean, how do you categorize that?
I don't even know how you categorize
Been in many
that.
movies.
What do y'all think?
Been in many movies.
Yeah, it's been in many movies. I mean, A Whole Lot of Love. That's another one out there. Black Dog is another one. Of course, Stairway to Heaven.
Right.
Of course. And Heart, when they were being inducted into wasn't the Hall of Fame or
Kennedy Honors.
Kennedy Honors. Heart came out there and they performed Stairway to Heaven, which was amazing. It was almost like, you know, it was like being in heaven, you know. If you were going to be there, that's what it would sound like. You'd be going there and you'd have, you know, Led Zeppelin playing at the pearly gates with Heart, you know. I mean, and then God will come down.
The hammer of the gods.
Hammer of the gods, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it just such a great group, and you know. So what else? What else you got?
So my question to you is, how many top 10 hits did Led Zeppelin have? That's my question to you. How many top 10 hits did Led Zeppelin have?
I'm gonna be fucking wrong on this, John. You know I am, man. You know, I mean, you looked it up and everything. You did your homework. I would say maybe 20.
20 top 10 hits. No. The only top 10 hit they ever had was Whole Lot of Love.
Oh my God.
So why do we bring this up? Because they're so ever present in culture and really known as probably one of the greatest groups of all time.
Right.
I mean, you have to list them in some people top 5, some people top 10, but it's at least top 10. They'd have to be somewhere in that top 10, in my estimation. But here is a band, only one top 10 hit.
Y'all, does that make any sense?
A number 4 with Whole Lot of Love, which, now think about that song. How long is that song? So for it to be a radio cut, which I hate the radio edit, it would have to be a radio edit anyhow.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the radio edit is horrible.
So this is a band that sold 110 million albums, and only had one top 10 hit. That's what's amazing about that. That's what's amazing about that.
That is crazy.
Now, talking about also, if you think about some of the more unique production of the artwork and things like that, think of Led Zeppelin 3 with the die cut and the die cut cover where it turned.
Yep.
Similarly with physical graffiti with crazy windows on there and things like that. Probably should have pulled these. Maybe I will once we get further into some of these. Pull some records at times. But those two, imagine how complicated that Led Zeppelin 3, the wheel, it's got to have a little pin in the middle. So, because it's a wheel that you just spin on this little. Do you have that one? Do you remember that, or do you just have it on CD?
I have it on CD, so I don't have that. Yeah,
but it literally has a little wheel in there that turns, so it's got a little pin that holds it on, a little metal thing. You imagine how expensive that was to make that. And then the double album. Well, first off, to go to your label and say I want to put out a double album was not too happening for some reason. They weren't big on putting out double albums, but Physical Graffiti was a double, and it had that building. And it kind of changed where you pulled it in and out, the inner sleeve. Changed what was in the windows. Changed what was in the windows. Very expensive, but notice these weren't the first albums of their career. They were popular. Talking about this started with the third one, where for Atlantic, they were making big bucks for Atlantic. So they could push this through and artistically do whatever the heck they wanted. And musically, let's face it, they probably could not have done the stuff that they did later, like a Cashmere. They probably would have gave that on their first album. They would say, "What, are you kidding me? We're not going to put that out." Even though Kashmir is a very beloved song. And
Oh God, yeah, everybody. I mean,
is in pop culture everywhere.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say it's in pop culture everywhere, but they would not have got away with that. For instance, like on their first album. First album is a little bit more. To me, it's the only one that's pretty straightforward, blues based. So even though they revisit, don't get me wrong, they revisit the blues, throughout their whole career, but they definitely went off on the tangents they wanted to, but they wouldn't have got away with that on the first album. Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
That was Ahmet Ertegun, which was in charge of the Ertegun brothers, were Atlantic Records. And I don't know if you remember, how long ago was this? About 10 years ago. I think he passed away. And I remember I put my name in the drawing. Remember they were going to get together for one show.
Yes.
They were going to use Jason Bonham as the drummer, which they did. It was the last time Zeppelin played together.
When that in England, 02?
Yep, exactly. 02? It was the O2
Celebration.
Arena or whatever it is. And they
Great
did
show.
it as a benefit or in honor of him or whatever, because he gave him a chance in the beginning. What was it, 68 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
And I want to say it was 2 nights there. Maybe it was 2 nights that they played there, but it was a time we got, the three of them back together with Jason Bonham doing the drum duties.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Plant sounded really good. I've seen that. I've seen that show on video or DVD. Very good show.
Still sounds good today with
exactly.
With the country singer
with Alison Krauss, which they're coming to town too. I saw that.
Oh.
Ironically enough, and I'm going to digress here once again, but they're coming to town with Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. What a weird lineup. I mean,
that sounds
I like
about
that
right.
Kind of stuff.
That sounds about right.
I like that
very,
kind of stuff.
Hey, mom, is it the way you move?
Right. How he did it with Alison Krauss. Right. So
yeah, I mean, it's and Robert Plant is just a genius. He's probably one of the best singers out there to me. He howled on that microphone, man. He did some. He was just. Oh man, you could just sit there and listen. Song remains the same and just get taken in by it all,
And this is one of also the reasons, like how he's doing did a lot of solo
drinking,
work,
doing acid,
and then and he's working with Alison Krauss now. She's the first to admit that he really does not want to sing these Led Zeppelin songs as Led Zeppelin songs because he just can't reach those notes anymore.
Right,
at his age. And I kind of respect that of not, trying to BS anybody and
but he's still coming out and doing it,
right? But doing it in a different key and things like that, and maybe letting her sing the higher parts, so on and so forth, slowing it down a little bit, so that he could. I saw several interviews on him, and that's kind of was his biggest thing is people would want him to do if they did like a Led Zeppelin reunion. Which they'd make big bucks, obviously, doing that.
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't feel he could do it justice.
Right.
Which you got to kind of respect.
You do have to respect that. There's a lot of bands out there that have gone out and they suck.
Right.
They sound horrible.
Now, what year did you see Led Zeppelin?
He's being a smart ass. I've never seen Zeppelin. He has.
Either have I.
Well, what were you on the Titanic?
Again, you can ask.
I bet you watched it.
I threw you the little.
Yeah, I bet you watched.
I saw Plant Page.
You saw Plant Page, okay.
Which, let's face it, that's essentially Led Zeppelin, but obviously without John Paul Jones. But I saw Plant Page. Basically, they were torn. So you can add that as another album.
But didn't Jimmy Page do something with David Coverdale?
Yeah, Coverdale Page.
Then
he also did The Firm.
Oh, yes.
The Firm. Yeah.
The Firm is great. Radioactive.
Yep.
If you guys have never, ever gotten to listen to The Firm, you need to listen to The Firm. Some of the best, you got one of the best lead singers right there from, if I'm correct, Bad Company.
Paul Rogers
from Bad Company.
Exactly.
And then you have Jimmy Page, and then me on drums.
You on drums, yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm on everybody's album.
On drums. And he was with XYZ.
Who was?
Jimmy Page.
No, he wasn't.
He was with XYZ.
He wasn't with XYZ. You're full of shit.
No, he was with XYZ. No, ask me.
Was it with
who's
Y and T too?
Who's XYZ? That's what you need to ask me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm waiting.
XYZ?
Yeah. Who's that?
XYZ. Who is that?
Okay. XYZ was a project of Jimmy Page. It stands for X. Okay. And then Y was members of Yes, were Alan White, and then
Oh, yeah,
bass player.
okay.
Can't come up with his name. The bass player of Yes.
That was Chris
Squire.
Chris Squire.
So it's Chris Squire, Alan White,
Mhm.
X, get it? X, no longer.
Yep.
Y, no longer with Yes.
Uh-huh.
Z, Jimmy Page, no longer with Zeppelin. XYZ.
I'll be there.
That was the band. How many albums they put out, Rob?
One.
No, they have yet to put out an album. It hasn't come in yet. We're waiting for it.
We're waiting
now,
for that.
Now, what happened with that is...
Who's going to be the lead singer? Peter Gabriel?
That was one of the problems. Is they couldn't get a lead singer. And they asked
Why didn't
Robert
they get
Plant...
you?
Well, because I don't sing that well. But they asked Robert Plant, and because it was a little more of a progressive thing, being kind of along the lines of long passages with Yes, he didn't want to do it. And it was relatively shortly after John Bonham died.
Okay.
So he wasn't ready to go out and do anything again. So they did cut, I think, 4 long tracks that are still there. They just never released them. So
is there any way to listen to it?
yes, I don't know if you can get it on YouTube. Maybe somebody out there knows that. I know it exists out there. I myself would be interested in hearing it. I've yet to hear it. But which is interesting. Chris Squire and Alan White used some of that. Chris Squire was also a writer. He wrote the majority of this material.
Both of them are gone too.
Right, both of them passed away.
Yeah.
Supplemented by Jimmy Page, and they used it in the 90120 album. They used some of the bits and pieces, or some of the ideas of what they did there, went on that particular Yes album.
Okay, all right.
So if it ever comes out, it might sound somewhat similar to that.
Yeah.
So, on that note, we're going to take a little, not a break, but we're going to get a beverage here, Rob.
We're going to get a beverage. Absolutely.
Beverage.
Shake and bake. That just happened. Oh, great.
We have good beer today. Better beer today.
Traditional lager.
You got the
Yingling.
crappy beer last
We
year.
got crappy beer last time.
Already guessed.
So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, beer girl. Wait, I'm in trouble.
Beverage cart.
Beverage cart girl.
Yeah. Here. Guys, this is all talking about good music, good times, with good people.
Party on, Garth.
Party on.
That's a little better.
Oh, that's a great beer right there.
Yeah, but anyhow, so I would be interested in hearing that, because kind of a unique scenario would be like a real progressive band mixing with, the genius of Jimmy Page.
Oh, yeah.
But my guess is why it hasn't come out is they call them demos, so they're probably very rough. That's probably why it's never seen the light of day.
Right.
Is my guess.
And they're dead.
Yeah, correct, and they're dead. So, he at least would be the only one who have to sign off on it. But it also goes back to
you could bring
some of the
Alan
other
White back and Chris Squire.
in memory only. But
yeah.
But it also comes back to almost kind of the infancy of Led Zeppelin. There was what they initially were trying to do. Well, let's first start with how Led Zeppelin came to be.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so obviously, or not obviously, maybe people out there don't know it, but both Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones were heavily sought after session musicians. They made a very good living because they were able to produce in the studio.
Yep.
Very good living. Obviously, Jimmy Page had a side hustle, which was called the Yardbirds.
Oh, yeah.
Which had quite a few hits. Not as many as the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or the Animals or the Kinks, but pretty close to maybe what the Animals had or something.
Yeah.
Kind of a second
The
tier.
Yardbirds.
Yeah, the Yardbirds kind of had a second tier. Yardbirds also had some really good guitarists, obviously. One called Jeff Beck, one called Eric Clapton. Basically, the Yardbirds while Jimmy Page was there, kind of wanted to go in a little bit different direction. The leader of the Yardbirds was a gentleman named Keith Relf.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the singer mainly, harmonica player, like a lot of these singers do, pick up the harmonica.
Yep.
And just on a side note, I forget what band he was with, but many years later, like in the late 70s, he was on stage, was electrocuted on stage, is how he met his demise, which was kind of, just had to throw that in there.
Holy moly!
Right. So anyhow, that's just a side note because we're talking about the Yardbirds.
That's a horrible side note. What do y'all think?
And I forget what band he was with, but we got their album downstairs.
It's electric!
You know what they were called? The Armageddon, I think, is what they were called.
Well, I mean, you know.
But
Armageddon.
So anyhow, he wanted to go, ironically enough, he wanted to go more of a, this is late 60s, but more of a folk kind of end versus, the blues that these guys were getting into that a lot of these guitar players wanted to get into.
That's shocking.
Right, well, it kind of is because that's not what the Yardbirds sounded like. Mm-hmm. So, and Jimmy Page did not, want to go that route.
Right.
So, neither did Jeff Beck for that matter.
But Eric Clapton did.
Eric Clapton kind of did. I think he might have been the solid one to kind of stay. But anyhow, the Yardbirds basically fell apart anyhow.
Yeah.
But what was starting to come out of it is what they're going to call the New Yardbirds or something else, which was going to be Jimmy Page led, Jeff Beck led. I think even at the time their manager of the Yardbirds must have been this Peter Grant who ended up managing Led Zeppelin. I think he was. Somebody can correct me in the audience if I'm wrong about that. But they were going to come up with this super group headed by Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. It was going to have, believe it or not, John Entwistle, Keith Moon, and then they needed a singer, and they were going to use either Steve Marriott, back then he's with the Small Faces, or they were going to use Steve Winwood, ironically enough. And
wow.
That was the plans. Now, nothing was really ever recorded by them, except they did go in the studio. Have you heard, I think it's off the album Truth, have you heard the piece Beck's Bolero?
I don't believe I have.
Truth by Jeff Beck. I mean, it's interesting. It almost sounds pseudo-classical, but a lot of people out there would know Beck's Bolero. That, believe it or not, is from that session. And Beck's Bolero, I think, was a B-side, or it could have been A-side, but it was really Jeff Beck's first solo single. Beck's Bolero, I believe, was on there. I don't know if it was the A or B side, I can't remember, but I believe that song eventually ended up on the album Truth a couple years later.
Truth, okay.
Which is a real famous album by anybody that's a fan of Jeff Beck will know that album. Anyhow, to make a long story short, they couldn't make it work. All these guys, probably a lot of egos, and who knows what.
Right.
So when they recorded this Beck's Bolero, Moon showed up, but Entwistle didn't show up. They needed some session musicians. Guess who they called in? John Paul Jones.
I'll be damned.
Okay, so John Paul Jones comes in the studio to do this song. Okay, and then Nicky Hopkins. You remember Nicky Hopkins, right?
Yep.
Real big with playing with the Stones, played with a lot of different people. And then recorded that particular song. Well, obviously Moon went his way, doing his stuff with The Who, and Hopkins went his way. And then
Keith Moon, God.
And then they found locally, a couple guys in Bonham and Plant that were playing, I think, in some local bands. I'm not sure exactly where if it was word of mouth or whatever, but then they shortly thereafter hooked up with those two. And the story behind it is Entwistle, behind the name. Do you know the story behind the name? It's kind of interesting. That Entwistle and Moon told, probably mainly Jimmy Page, but that this band is going to go down like a lead balloon.
I'll be there.
You never heard that one before? Supposedly it was Entwistle
Lead
and Moon.
balloon.
Yeah,
so they
called it a Led Zeppelin because they didn't have a name. They were initially going to getting booking dates as the New Yardbirds. So basically they maybe had a couple songs that eventually went on to Led Zeppelin songs, but they initially were just kind of going out as the New Yardbirds. then, I mean, they blew up quick. I mean, real quick. You know, I mean, that first album after they came out, I mean, they just blew up after that. But that's kind of just the short, quote unquote, you know, history of Led Zeppelin.
Didn't they open up for some band? It might have been, I can't think of who it was. They opened up and they actually made the headliner band. They were so upset because they just kicked ass on being live. I don't think it was Rush.
No, that wouldn't surprise me, though, because that would have been, like I said, they put that album out in '68 when they really were nobody coming from the Yardbirds. And it probably took a little bit for that to hit, but...
Was it Iron Butterfly?
They could have. Wouldn't
because
surprise
Iron
me one of
Butterfly...
those West Coast bands, or even like Jefferson Airplane or somebody, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they basically...
I want to say you're probably right that it's like West Coast.
They booed the freaking headliner.
Well, can you imagine? Well, first off, it's a totally different dichotomy. I mean, you know, of kind of these psychedelic bands, and then you have this just bombastic, loud sound. I mean, I'm sure they're playing loud too. I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
Just this heavy sound, and, you know, and all that music in '68. You know, a lot of it was psychedelic and. But I have heard it. I can't remember. You might be right that could have been the Iron Butterfly.
I think it was either Iron Butterfly. Y'all comment and let us know who you think it might be, because I'd like to, you know, I'd really like to know who that was, because I know that Led Zeppelin when they performed, they were excellent, and they played at Woodstock too, didn't they?
Led Zeppelin did not play at Woodstock.
Well, Woodstock, they never played at the Woodstock, but did they play at the Woodstock that was new?
No, they couldn't have. Because they were long gone. Because they were gone after 1980.
So did Jason?
So if you want to guess somewhere else they played, anywhere else you'd like to play? Yes.
Did Led Zeppelin play at Bonnaroo?
I wish.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this.
They play at Music Midtown, John?
Yeah, I don't think they're playing there this year. But I remember when I got the chance just to see Page Plant. It was kind, you know, they went on the stage, and it was like I was almost dumbfounded.
Who was the drummer?
That I'm seeing nobody I can remember. It wasn't Jason Bonham.
Jonathan
Nobody I can remember. I mean, we could look it up. I'm sure there's whoever made that album with them. You know, and people always say, well, they play Stairway to Heaven. No, they did not play Stairway to Heaven, but that was not unusual for them not to play that song.
Did they play Black Dog?
Of course.
Okay.
Black Dog.
Okay.
In most everything you'd want to hear, and then they, like I said, they had some new material from, what's it called, Welcome to Clarksdale? It was that Page Plant album. I think that's what it was called.
Okay.
Which had, you know, quite a few good songs that I enjoyed that one. And that probably would also go on the list. It's not, quote unquote, a Led Zeppelin album proper, but it is Page and Plant, so you almost have to add it in there. And that was a good album. So I forgot about that. Well, you know, we went through the initial list. But just seeing them, and I'm trying to also remember if they had an opening band. I don't remember, but I was just so geared up because it was kind of like, oh my.
Oh, yeah.
This is
didn't matter.
The closest I will ever be to seeing Led Zeppelin.
Right,
I mean,
right.
You know, I mean, and that's it. It sounded so good because this is probably 20 years, at least 20 years ago, maybe even.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, so, I mean, they're still like late 50s. You know, I mean, the guys would have been, I mean, still, you know, relatively young.
Mm-hmm.
So his voice, he still was able to hit certain notes.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, they were doing some unusual arrangements with things. And I don't know, just because they wanted to be artistic or a combination of that. And
were you digging it?
I was totally digging. Or maybe even Robert Plant needed to get some different octave ranges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But there's some different arrangements, which sometimes is very offsetting to people because they want to hear, well, I want to hear a whole lot of love the way they recorded it. And if you listen to artists, if they can get away with it, like, you know what? I like to expand what I'm doing. I like to, you know, do things. Well, I mean, you're a drummer. You probably don't like to play the things the same all the time.
No, hell no.
And as an artist, and they can get away with it. They're basically Led Zeppelin. They can get away with playing it the way they want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to change it up, they're going to change it up.
Yeah.
If they don't want to play Stairway to Heaven, they're not going to play Stairway to
No,
Heaven.
they're not going to play Stairway to Heaven.
They don't have
Well, I
to.
mean, it's a long, long song. Stairway to Heaven is such a long song, and it's just, did they enjoy playing that? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I guess maybe they did, but
I think the Plant really didn't like the song. That's what I've heard. The Plant really didn't like the song.
Well, I mean, it's just so. I mean, it's not a thing where you can be driving down the road on a sunny day and you're feeling all revved up and everything, and you go, "I want to play Stairway to Heaven." You don't do that,
right?
And if you do, then you want to fast forward it to the part where it starts getting rocking,
right.
rather than boo, 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 boo,
right?
You know what I mean? And I'm like, because I'm going to sleep with the wheel on that shit.
Well, it's like at the Wayne's World episode where I remember as growing up learning how to play guitar. Everyone learns how to play ding 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 ding. The beginning riff or arpeggio, whatever you want to call it, to Stairway to Heaven. And there's that scene in Wayne's World where they go into the guitar shop and there's a sign that says "No Stairway." Remember that?
Yeah.
Pick up the guitar and play Stairway. But I mean, there's so much to that because everybody learns that lick. It's so famous. So
Spinal Tap.
Right. It's definitely a Spinal Tap moment.
Yeah, hey. Well, Well, usually your amplifier is supposed to go to 10 usually.
Right.
Well, mine goes to 11.
Right.
Well,
right.
it's that's kind of crazy because 10 is where it's supposed to end. Mine goes to 11.
Right.
So
it gives me that extra
fucking
oomph.
realize
It gives me
this
that
shit.
extra oomph.
Yeah,
says,
just realize
Right.
that's the way it is.
Right. Exactly.
Great movie. If you've never seen Spinal Tap, you need to see Spinal Tap. One of the funniest rock and roll movies of all time. And I think it was a real band at one time.
No.
They did play.
Well, okay.
It was kind of like a Jack Black kind of thing,
Correct. Well, I mean, basically, they were comedians. Okay?
Yes, of course.
So they played it off like that this was a real...
Yes.
Like this was a real band that had been
Big
around
bottoms.
for like 30 years. Right. Had been around for like 30 years.
Yes.
Basically, the bass player was his name. I can't remember now.
Wasn't he on Laverne and Shirley?
No, that's the guitarist. Was Lenny from Laverne and Shirley.
Yes.
So,
and the drummer blew up.
Right. And the bass player was a main writer for Saturday Night Live. And he's also the guy married to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh,
Jamie Lee
okay.
Curtis does. But anyhow, but talk about the public being gullible. I remember when they came out because the songs were dirty and kind of witty and things like that.
Yeah.
But
Fat.
they were right, but they were well written. You know what I'm saying? They were well written songs. They sounded like good songs. And you went to this movie and they're showing, well, here's the album we did 10 years ago, and they're showing all this, and it's a mockumentary. But some people that watched it thought it was real.
Yeah.
But there's all these cameos by famous people.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that.
They're great band. Right. They just ruled the world.
Right. And then they ended up having a spot, the musical guest on Saturday Night Live. And I remember some people thinking they were real.
Yeah.
Meaning, I mean, obviously they're real people, but it was done as a parody.
Right.
It was done as a parody. But they did it so well that some people got fooled by it. Which was hilarious.
How about when they were playing the airplane anger and then there was interception?
It was for the Air Force.
Yeah.
And they were like wanting a dance band. Right. You gotta see the movie. You don't know what Rob and I were talking about.
You gotta see the movie.
But it is funny.
It's a classic movie.
It is funny.
It is a classic movie. That's for sure.
Rob Reiner's in it. Meathead from All in the Family.
Yeah.
And he's acting like he's doing a documentary.
Yes.
Remember, he's going around interviewing people and this and that about this history of this band.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want a real one of those, there was this band called, not Anthrax, Anvil.
Anvil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The only hit they ever had, and you can't really call it hit, but here's the part of the program where we do what? diverge to a different topic.
Diverge, yeah.
To a different topic.
I gotta put my glasses on.
But
y'all.
anyhow,
Can't see.
Anvil, the only they had a song. I don't know if you remember. It was called "Metal on Metal."
Walk it back. That's what I call it.
What's that?
When
we
you
just
say
walked it
diverge,
back.
I'd say walk it back.
We just walked it back.
Walk it back. Walk it back.
But they had a song that had minimal radio play, but it was called "Metal on Metal." It's actually a really good song, but they had really like stupid names of their song. It's like something like March of the Crabs, like stuff. I mean, yeah,
March of the Crabs.
But
March.
anyhow, so putting the Spinal Tap you almost have to watch Spinal Tap first.
Yeah.
But there was a real documentary on these guys. Okay, a real documentary. I think you can get it on Netflix or one of the services. I forget what it's called. You've not seen that?
I've never seen it. I want to see it now.
You need to see it because it's a real Spinal Tap, okay?
And it's funny?
It's funny, but it's not meant to be, okay? It starts off, it goes, in the beginning, there was, and this is the truth because it's showing this festival like in Sweden. It goes, in the beginning, there was Metallica, there was Megadeth, there was Anthrax, and there was Anvil. And they literally were playing to, millions of people, this festival shows them all three. And it goes something like, where is Anvil now? And it shows this dude, he's got his hair up in a hairnet, the singer, guitarist, and God bless the guy, but he's having to work in a, like a food, what do you call that, where they, Meals for Wheels.
Yeah.
He's working in where they process this to make the Meals for Wheels, and he's delivering the food. And it goes through his life is, hey, he's got to have a 9 to 5. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working for Meals on Wheels, don't get me wrong. But the point is, this guy is a rock star, and he's having to make ends meet doing this. But the whole deal with the movie is they're trying to get to where they can go on tour again, put out another album. So it starts with these things, and somebody books them for a European tour, and it's just like out of Spinal Tap. They get there, and like 5 people show up. It's like just that. You know what I'm saying? It's very Spinal Tap. They get mad at each other. To make a long story short, it ends good. They get everything figured out.
It's not supposed to be funny, but it is.
It's not, but it is in parts, and it is heartwarming in parts, but it is real life though. And
like Steel Panther.
No, or
those guys.
They're not real life, right?
The Steel Panthers awesome.
They are funny, but we cannot say what they say.
We cannot say what they say, no at all. You need to listen to Steel Panther if you haven't listened to Steel Panther.
But I think as a segment, even though we kind of diverged there, is to put into things like movies or a biography of a band or something like that. Because there's other formats, that deal with music. I know we're here to talk about Led Zeppelin, and Anvil couldn't be any further from Led Zeppelin.
Right. I don't know how the hell we got off on that, but
I don't either. Oh, we were talking about the Spinal Tap. I don't know how we got from Led Zeppelin to Spinal Tap either. But with that being said, there is a connection between Led Zeppelin and Spinal Tap. Is that kind of hedonistic lifestyle that Spinal Tap kind of made famous? And Led Zeppelin, let's face it, they were one of those ones that kind of was the mold of that.
Yes.
Come on, the pretty boy. Robert Plant, Roger Daltrey was probably the other ones. They weren't, let's say, wearing undergarments. Let's say they were the first, really, to kind of do that.
Oh yeah.
And to be kind of, out there like that, if you will.
Yes, definitely.
That became.
I mean, Roger Daltrey's got an awesome voice too, man.
Right.
I mean, he's got when he says you won't get fooled again, and he's just like it's just unbelievable. And that's where a lot of the bands today are getting all of their stuff from, is all of these older bands. Right. There's a band called Porcupine Tree, and they're a Canadian. They're a great band, man. It's they are a mixture of Tool, Yes, and
they're English, Rob. They're English.
Huh?
They're English. English. They're English.
They're English.
They're not Canadian.
No, I know. What? Who are? The
Porcupine Tree? Porcupine Tree are Canadian.
Yeah.
They're English.
No, they're not.
They're English.
How do you know?
They're English.
Okay.
We'll look it up.
Porcupine Tree is a English band, guys. They're no longer a Canadian band.
Steven Wilson,
yep. Yes. And there's a couple other guys in that band, too, that I can't remember.
Richard Barbieri.
Richard Barbieri, yep.
Barbieri, yep. And what band was Richard Barbieri in that you used to like?
They were in a band called Pink Floyd.
No, actually. Anyhow, to go with what Rob is saying, the only reason I know this is that I'm pretty sure that they're English. The only reason that I say that is, out of the band members, Richard Barbieri was in the band Japan. Remember them from the 70s?
Yes.
He was the keyboard player for Japan.
And Japan was a Japanese band.
Now, Japan would be a Japanese country. No, they were an English band, bro. But anyhow.
Why would you call yourself Japan of being an English band? I mean, it's like me being an American band and calling myself Australia.
You have a point, Rob.
Or Russia.
You have a point.
Yeah. Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
We're Russia.
Russia.
Well, Rush called. Oh, no.
I'm not going to
go there. But, yeah.
Or how about, ladies and gentlemen, we're Turkey. We're Greek. We're Greece.
Well, I mean,
we're Denmark.
I guess you could call yourself anything you want.
I know a band that we could form called Europe. It's the final countdown. Well, that was horrible. That sounded like a dead fucking cat.
Right. It kind of did. Usually you
or a dying cat. Yeah. Usually I get the notes, y'all, but Yingling is taking over. And we are not advertising for Yingling, okay? We're not. He's not advertising for Led Zeppelin either. Well, actually, he kind of is.
But we would not be opposed if Yingling pulled up to the driveway and dropped off a
We
pallet
would not be opposed to that at all. But I guarantee you, in this subdivision, there would be a couple of people that would be pissed off because there would be kids running around everywhere, and they would be upset.
Okay.
Because if a beer truck pulled in here right now, everybody and their mamas and their daddies are going to come over here and try to get the beer from us.
That could be. Could be like a hobo and a hot dog.
I'm shimming the ass.
Could be like a hobo and a hot dog.
Hobo and a hot dog, yeah.
But we very much digressed, and you had mentioned Porcupine Tree, and I'm not even sure where you're going with it.
Porcupine Tree.
I love them, by the way.
Yes, great band. I mean, they're a little bit of, they're a little bit of Yes, a little bit of Tool, and a little bit of Genesis. That's the other one I was thinking of.
That's a good character.
Yeah, Genesis is a great band as well.
I would say old school Genesis, and I think that's what you mean, right?
Peter Gabriel?
Peter Gabriel version. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I saw something on Peter Gabriel the other day. He was, he's an older gentleman, but he still sounds freaking awesome.
You just put out an album.
Yeah, he sounds great. Congratulations, Peter Gabriel, if you're watching this, which I doubt you are.
He is. He's a fan.
You're a fan of the Wise Guys. That's with the Z.
But I think this is his first solo album. I've heard a few songs off it that are very good, but it's first solo album that he has done in something like 15, 20 years for Peter Gabriel.
Okay.
So 15 or 20 years. And I know, like I said, I've only heard a couple songs, a couple that I've heard I've liked. But there's kind of two different versions of it. Like one is like darker than the other one. Isn't that a weird thing? Like darker as in mood.
Yeah.
So I'd almost want to get both just to hear that because that's such an unusual concept.
Right. In your thighs.
Oh, no.
Oh, in your eyes. Yeah. Sorry, not your thighs.
Yeah,
Sorry.
But,
Jesus.
Yeah, Steven Wilson, not sure how we got there, man. I'm kind of glad you did go there because I absolutely love Porcupine Tree and his solo stuff. But he is one of the ones for most of these progressive bands. I believe Yes being one of them, Jethro Tull for sure, King Crimson, so on and so forth. He's the one that's been remastering all this stuff
Yes.
for all these progressive bands.
Yes.
So in addition to him doing the stuff for Porcupine Tree, they just released a new album.
Porcupine Tree did?
Yep.
Great.
I have not heard it yet.
Okay.
So I can't speak on it.
I wish they would come down here and play in concert.
They probably will. They are touring. And Richard Barbieri of Japan is touring with them.
Richard Barbarius.
Or Richard Barbarius if
Japan.
if you've had more than one beer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Japan.
Do you remember the band Japan?
No.
They were
Hiroshima?
No, they actually had an island, I think, called Hiroshima, actually. But do you know a singer named David Sylvian? He was the singer of Japan. They were boy, we really went on a left turn.
Did he have crooked eyes?
He might have.
Okay.
But they were more popular in England than here, but a synth pop band, kind of that new wave sound. They were part of that new wave sound in the late 70s.
But Japan.
They were called Japan.
Why would you come out with a damn name Japan?
I don't know.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan.
Or Japan. Right, call your band
Yeah, and your opening act is Afghanistan.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
Hey, we're Israel.
I mean, for the next episode, I'll look it up. Okay, Rob? I don't know why they called the band Japan. And there was nobody that appeared to be Oriental in the band either. Okay, so I don't know. So
we have we're Israel, and the lead, the opening. Let's see, how would we say this? Israel coming to State Farm Arena with opening act Hamas.
Right. Okay, can I give you another one?
Hey, Ma.
How about this? Why wasn't the band called America? Weren't they Canadian?
Yeah,
they were called America. I think that band they were called America. I thought they were Canadian.
America, didn't it have Neil Young in it?
No.
Okay.
Did you drink before you came
Yes,
over
I
here?
did.
No. Neil Young
That's why do you think I was
Crosby,
late?
Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. America's, isn't that the one that sings Horse with No Name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I could swear they're Canadian, but they call themselves America.
And they also there's a band called Bread.
And that has... where are you going with that?
I mean,
we're talking about trying
also
to
another
names
band
of
Corn.
countries and cities.
There's
and stuff,
Corn.
and stuff like
that.
that.
America. I mean, can we come out with a band? Ladies and gentlemen, Canada.
Right.
Or Alaska.
Well, I mean, how about the band Boston? They were from South America. No, actually, they were from New England.
I know they were. You dumbass. You're just...
So anyhow, we were very much digressing here.
We're just another band out of Boston, South America.
So back to Steven Wilson.
Well, I mean, there was not a band, but there was a band that actually wrote a song called Africa.
Toto.
Uh-huh. We're not in Kansas anymore.
Nope. And they were an American band.
Yep.
Yep.
Steve Lukather.
Yep. And a good band. If you get past just those couple of hits they had, their albums were very progressive since we're kind of
I freaking love Toto, man.
Yeah, on that progressive mold. I mean, that wasn't all. So what? Hold the Line and Roseanne and
Rosanna. Yep.
If you get past those,
great,
they were pretty progressive.
And they were. And the thing is that they are a jazz band. You're gonna throw up, Sean. They're a jazz. They're kind of like a jazz.
Your pocket.
Yeah. Here you go, fucker. They were kind of like a jazz band a little bit. You know, I mean, it's just with guitar. And they also had a saxophone in there, I believe, and
Well, they would get out there a little bit. I would agree with you. That's
great band.
Is that they had the progressive leanings, and most people just know them, and rightfully so, just for those few hits.
Right.
But those
and
guys
Weezer,
made probably 20 damn albums.
Right. And Weezer came out with their own version of Africa and Rosanna.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying is these bands that have come out today, y'all, are a big. They're loving everything that they listened to a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, Weezer, they're coming to Music Midtown or Music whatever, And I would love to go see them. They'd be great. But tickets are so damn expensive.
How expensive are they, Rob?
They're like $500 for 2 days each.
I know you shouldn't say that. I thought I heard you say $500. Pause.
$500. Pause.
Okay. I thought I didn't hear you right, maybe.
Hold on. Pause. 500.
No way.
Yeah.
Just for a general admission.
Yeah. A 2-day pass.
$500.
$500 there, Papa Roach.
Okay, I know we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
Okay. That in the day, you got a ticket. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a ticket. You got in there. You got wherever you could get. However quick you got in there, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You raced to a seat or you raced to a standing place
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody paid the same.
Yep.
Right? So that the normal people that support these bands could actually afford to go see these bands.
But the problem was, sorry to interrupt, problem was when you have general admission for everybody,
Right.
that's what happens at the damn Who concert where everybody's killed.
Correct. And that's one of the reasons they got away from doing that. One of the reasons. And so you're right. You can't argue with that because you don't want people to get hurt in their work.
Hence, that's where the mosh pit came
Right.
from.
But
It didn't.
but with that being said, where that would be a little bit different is if you had general admission and you laid down all seats, not just standing room only. Everybody had to sit somewhere. Then you could probably eliminate that, Rob.
You could. I've been in some general admission concerts, and there's some absolute dumbass freaks out there that cause all kinds of problems for other people. I mean, maybe in my early days, because I'm old as hell and John's ancient. But in my days that I did run to, if I tried to get by the stage or something like that. But now I wouldn't worry about all that bullshit. It's more of me just going
Exactly.
and you know what I'm saying? And it's a kind of situation where I want to just, if I have to wait in line, but I want to see, I want to get a good seat or whatever. I don't have to be in the front row anymore. There's no reason for all that crap.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. And the other issue with this, too, is they're more conscious of people with handicaps and disabilities, giving them a place in there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in our day, I really don't remember, in all honesty, them having a place for anybody.
No.
That had any sort of disability.
Never.
So.
Never. They just don't even look at that.
So the beverage cart's wheeling up right now.
All right.
Here comes the beverage cart, Rob.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We got the producer of the show.
That's the producer of the show, otherwise known as the beverage sweetheart.
Yeah, the beverage sweetheart, or part of the wise guys. That's with the Z.
So what is that? That is wise guys with the Z, Rob?
That's wise guys with the Z. So guys, with the Z, I'm just kidding. What do you think is your favorite song from Led Zeppelin? We're getting back to that right now. We just really, really went out on a tangent here.
Right.
I mean, shit. I don't even know how we got to Bob Dylan. We talked about
Neil
Bob
Young.
Dylan. We talked about Neil Young, Japan, Hiroshima. And there's a band called Hurricane. That's the lead singer is the lead singer of Foreigner.
Didn't Hurricane, we're going to go on another tangent.
Yeah.
Didn't Hurricane do that song, I'm On to You? Wasn't that Hurricane?
They did I'm On to You, and
Yeah.
they also did...
but can I tell you something else?
they also did a song called I'm in the Middle of a Tornado.
Can I tell you something else?
Yeah.
I believe they're Canadian. If you look that up, I'm pretty sure Hurricane's a Canadian
Well,
band.
I do believe that Foreigner is a Canadian band, too, because they're foreigners.
They're foreign, all right. They're foreign from
South Africa.
by way of England. But anyhow,
My new band is going to be called Antarctica.
because nobody's from there. Rob's going to start a band called Antarctica.
Yeah.
And then nobody can say
Or
you're
Penguin.
not from there.
Or Penguin.
So,
Or Elephant.
but I think what you're alluding to is we would be, happy to address like some of these questions we pose, your favorite albums. Like in the next episode, do a segment at the beginning of it addressing, hey, I disagree with you. Coda was the greatest album Led Zeppelin ever did. Now, if somebody said that, I would have to,
we'd have to argue with
mentally
you.
ill.
Yeah, we'd have to argue with you.
But my point is, those questions are welcome just for the dialogue. And
because the best song that Led Zeppelin's ever done, the best song ever, and y'all are going to agree with me. If you don't agree with me, then F you. It's Hot Dog.
Hot Dog.
Hot Dog. I
mean, I don't despise it. Okay. Okay. I don't despise it, but I really don't like that one too well. That could have been a throwaway track.
Or Poor Tom.
Yeah. But, yeah, that one's a little rough. Now.
Poor Tom is rough?
Oh, no.
Rough.
Rough. Roof.
Right. And they're Canadian.
No, but Hurricanes. I think.
We did believe the Hurricanes.
I will look that one up.
Yes.
I will look that one up. I'm pretty sure they're Canadian. But, didn't you see Foreigner?
Saw a tribute band.
Oh, okay.
And I also saw the real Foreigner, too.
Okay.
Did he
mention, anything like that? Or, where he was
from? Here's who's coming in concert. And if I can get tickets, I want us to go to it. Because we would be... In fact, I think our podcast listeners could give us money to go see these fucking concerts.
And then I have a riddle after that, okay?
Okay, gotcha. Okay. But John Waite, Foreigner, and Styx are all together.
I could see that.
I would too. Now, John Waite, I would probably get there a little bit later because John Waite, I'm really, but Foreigner,
What band
and Styx,
What band was John Waite in?
Badlands.
The Babies.
That's close.
He was the singer of the Babies, yeah. Remember the Babies?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so was Jonathan Cain of Journey. They were both original members.
I'll be damned.
Okay, ready for a riddle?
Yeah.
Okay, audience, ready for now you mentioned you have seen Foreigner, correct? The band.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also seen a foreign cover band, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you saw the Foreigner cover band last year, right? That was the show I missed.
Yeah, it's great band, yeah.
What do the real Foreigner band, in other words, the legitimate, bona fide Foreigner band.
Lou Gramm.
Right, whatever. And the Foreigner cover band have in common? It's a riddle.
What do the
Foreigner band, the actual Foreigner band.
The actual Foreigner band.
And the cover band you saw have in common?
They do Foreigner songs.
They would have that in common, you're correct. Neither of them have any original members. How do you like that?
John's so damn deep.
Think about that. There's not one original member in Foreigner.
I know.
Lou Gramm is not with Foreigner.
I know.
Mick Jones no longer can play the guitar, so he's not in Foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, pose you another one. There's another band out there that has zero original members that still tours. And they are coming here this year. And they're very famous.
Rolling Stones. Just kidding. It's not the Rolling Stones.
Correct. No, I'm just kidding.
Correct. Gosh. It's not Styx because you got Tom Shaw.
He's not an original member, but you have DeYoung though.
He ain't in it.
What's the other guitarist? He's in it though. He's an original. Tommy Shaw came after the third album or fourth album.
Yeah, it's the other guy.
But the other guy that does some of the singing and plays guitar, he's an original.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I think you're right though. I think he's the only original member of Styx. So
yeah, I think so too.
It's not one of the DeYoung brothers. His last name DeYoung. I can't remember. It really doesn't matter. But I think
I can't think of his name.
But
going back to the band that has No original members.
but they still tours, and they're allowed to because contractually, what happens is the descendants. So what happens with this was kind of unusual. The descendants that own the name, you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
They okay it. You know what I mean? And usually it's guys that were with the band, okay, when some of the other members were living. You follow me?
Yes.
Anyhow, it's Leonard Skinner.
Oh, wow. They're
There's
coming
not
here?
one, yeah, there's not one living member. Now, in their case, it's not illness and things like that. Every single member of Leonard Skinner, original member, is deceased. Every single one.
Wow.
Deceased. And they're not all that old. Think about that. They're not all that old. I mean, there was a lot of tragedy. You had a plane crash, obviously. You had the last one was Gary Rosington. The other guitarist many years ago had a stroke because they were in that band. Remember Rosington Collins band?
Mm-hmm.
They had a couple hits. Bass player about 10 years ago died.
So who is the members of Leonard Skinner then?
I mean, really nobody I know of other than, if you'd like me to address that, a lot of people that have just been around, but as far as real pedigree is Johnny Van Zant.
Yes.
Sings the little brother, and he was in a band I used to like called the Johnny Van Zant Band.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good name.
Right. And the only other real famous one, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's the one of the guitarists. He's the one with the long, whitish blonde hair. He was the leader of Blackfoot, but he now for the last 20 years has been Leonard Skinner.
Okay.
But he was the leader of Blackfoot, and I can't. Ricky Medlock.
Okay.
Now here.
Is he Canadian?
No, he's from Florida. If you consider Florida Canada, then Rob, he's from Canada.
Is he Canada? He is Canadian.
So Ricky Medlock, ironically, not a guitar player and things like that, happens to be a Native American. So if you see, I think he has something tattooed on his arms concerning that, you'll see. But he was the original before they recorded anything.
Mm-hmm.
He is the original drummer of Leonard Skinner before they recorded anything, but he never was around long enough for anything to happen.
And now he's
the guitarist, but he was the original drummer way back when. But he doesn't really count because he wasn't there for the formative years. They recorded their albums, and then he went on. Do you remember the band Blackfoot? They're kind of popular for a few years
Blackfoot.
in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I believe they were all Native Americans, which was somewhat unusual for a band to be all Native
Canadian.
Americans. Well, they could be, they could have been Native Americans from Canada, for all I know, because there are, reservations in Canada.
Oh yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he's from Florida, Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken.
If I had a band, I'd call it Indian.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. But anyhow, I'm not sure why we got there once again, but we were talking about bands that there's no original members to, and that's would be another one that's out there right now is Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
But I guess who owns the rights, what I was reading about, is the widow of Ronnie Van Zant.
Okay.
The original singer, and I guess for whatever reason he had, and I guess with this other member dead, I mean, I don't know how, but they're allowing them to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, once again, no original members. Now, over the years, I've seen them and this and that, and there's, I've seen them with 3 original members, and, but, you and I are not old enough to have seen them, because when that happened, 77, 78, whatever it was. Still we're a great live band because you're talking about still had a lot of, professional musicians in there.
Yeah, they had a great song called "Ooh That Smell."
Correct.
Ooh, that smell.
Now,
I think what was that about? They talking about marijuana?
Could have been.
Can't you smell that smell?
It's around here. Right. Well, it could have been.
Somebody farted in the band.
They were on a bus.
And their fart came out.
They were on a bus.
Their fart came out.
And they were on a bus.
Canadian.
Yes. Now, you're on this Canadian.
Bless you.
Today. Okay, we're not doing Rush today. Okay. If you want to do Rush again next week, we could do another episode for Rush.
So Led Zeppelin, getting back to Led Zeppelin.
Back
to Led Zeppelin. They are from Australia.
Yeah. They are an Australian band, according to Rob.
They are an Australian band, and Robert Plant was in a band before Led Zeppelin called Japan.
No, actually, he was in a band before Led Zeppelin with John Bonham called the Almond Joys.
The Almond Joys?
Yes. see, I can help you out there. That's a fact if you look it up.
The Almond Joys.
So,
yeah, Snickers.
Now, I think if you get the Led Zeppelin box set.
I have it.
Okay. And you've never, I think there's a cut or two by Bonham and Robert Plant when they were the Almond Joys. I think.
I don't think it was the Almond Joys. I think it was the whatchamacallits.
I think you might have called it the whatchamacallits because there's copyright infringement.
Right.
So
exactly. Or Snickers or Reese's.
But,
ladies and gentlemen, Reese's.
Pieces.
Reese's Pieces.
Right. But the mighty Led Zeppelin, the other releases that have been out there that I like, I know they're starting to do these, and I don't own them myself, but these releases of the albums with there's not so many alternate tracks. I mean, they didn't do much
with
throwaway.
different
Yeah.
artists.
They didn't do much throwaway with Led Zeppelin's material. I mean, what was on there was on there, and they kept it. But they have these, like Led Zeppelin 3 with a bonus disc. Well, most of the bonus discs, there's some demos on there, but it's mainly live stuff and this and that. But there's two things I want to point out that were, way after the end of the band that are outstanding. One is called the BBC Sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Outstanding. I mean, basically, the BBC Sessions basically they're on the radio over there. Is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing live on the radio.
Yep.
The one I have, and I believe now you could get a 4-disc set or something like that, but it was on CD, but it was a 2-disc set. Absolutely outstanding, the BBC Sessions. Now, nothing revelatory there. They're not new songs, but different renditions and live renditions and very, very good material. Nice. There was a foghorn. There's a tugboat coming through here right now. It's called the USS.
My name.
USS Rob.
The new name of my band is called Bert. Belch.
Yeah, got some on you. But anyhow, the second one, I don't even know if you're aware of this. I have it both in CD format and DVD. It's called How the West Was Won.
Oh, wow.
And I believe that's from 1975. It's one of the few, in the day, both DVD versus, forget about bootlegs where they legally record these, but Led Zeppelin put this out themselves.
How the West Was Won? I've heard that.
It's called How the West Was Won.
What song?
And it's everything from about 75. So it's really the peak.
It's a live album?
It's a live album, and it's also a live DVD. So you can also see the video of it. So that's outstanding. Now, obviously, you can go on YouTube and see all these different clips, but there's two different things that came out way later that are very good. You mentioned The Firm. Outstanding. Did you mention The Firm, or did you mention Covered Up Page, or both?
I mentioned all of it.
Okay. And then The Firm did, 2 releases with Paul Rogers.
Radioactive.
Yeah. I mean, great. To me, that was a little less experimental and a little more straightforward when he was doing with The Firm. It was a little more just heavy music.
So good, though. Good Lord. So good.
It's excellent. The other one that we didn't mention that's kind of interesting that involved Jimmy Page was Jimmy Page and the Black Crows. And the reason I didn't mention it too much is there's nothing. I have the one live at the Greek Theater, but there's nothing. What's the word I'm looking for?
Outstanding.
Right. Well, it's outstanding, but there's nothing out of the ordinary there because he sounds so much like Robert Plant. They're playing the songs relatively true to a Led Zeppelin set list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like almost hearing a...
So the Black Crows were doing Led Zeppelin songs?
With Jimmy Page playing guitar.
Wow.
Oh, you don't remember that? There's a whole tour of that. there was a whole tour of the Black Crowes with Jimmy Page, and he just and then I forget his name now, but the brother that does the singing was doing the vocals.
I can't think.
And they
of
were
his
doing
name
Led
either.
Zeppelin sets.
Yeah.
And it was a whole tour. And if you find it, it's called the Black Crowes. The one they released was called the Black Crowes Live at the Greek Theater. To the best of my knowledge, unless somebody can correct me here, I do not believe they did any studio recordings.
Okay.
They just straightforward did mostly. I don't want to say all because I haven't seen every single thing out there about it. But they mostly did Led Zeppelin songs, which makes sense because he has a voice that will be conducive to that. So they did that tour.
Oh yeah.
So Jimmy
Tell
Page with
me
the
I'm wrong.
So Jimmy Page with the Black Crowes. I mean, it's good stuff, but it's not. It's very Zeppelin centric. So it's nothing like that they mixed their two styles and came up with something else. You know what I mean? But that's very interesting. Another one did get mentioned is poor John Paul Jones, who doesn't get much love, but he did. Are you familiar with them Crooked Vultures?
Yes, I am, and
that's very good.
Unbelievable that he was in that. That was with Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl on drums.
Yep.
Josh Homme on guitar.
Yep.
Of Queens of the Stone Age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very good. It almost seems like John Paul Jones is a little bit more open to playing with a lot younger people.
Oh yeah.
Or experimenting in that end where it's heavier or things of that nature.
I couldn't believe he was in that. That was great. And I mean, you've got Dave Grohl as a drummer, man, and he's just insane drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
And the other thing I mentioned, like I said, because there's not much love for, John Paul Jones, first off, to me, was very integral, not in the beginning, but as time went on in the Led Zeppelin sound, adding texture with keyboards. His bass lines were phenomenal, but he especially was adding...
No quarter.
Right, absolutely. And adding texture with those keyboards. I saw... have you seen these videos where they're raising money for world causes, where it shows all these different musicians from around the world, and they're playing their part, but they're all apart, like it was probably initially started
they're all in boxes.
COVID, and they're all like in different parts of the world, but they're playing like one famous song. Like they did The Weight by the band. I saw that one. It's on The Weight.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I saw one with John Paul Jones, the whole series, of course. I saw one with John Paul Jones, ironically doing When the Levee Breaks. Would show this artist from India, this artist from blah, blah, blah. They're adding their little parts to it, you know what I mean? But anyhow, he was doing When the Levee Breaks, which, phenomenal Led Zeppelin song. And can't believe they wrote that one, can you?
What, When the Levee Breaks?
Yeah.
Beautiful song. I love it. And, that's the thing, is that there's a lot of bands out there. In fact, I saw a band, and I think you were there too, Troubadour. They actually came out, they actually played in Canton, and after they were all done with their show and everything, they started playing Whole Lot of Love and Kashmir and everything like that,
Oh, that was at Elton John tribute band. Or was it the Elton John or was it the Eagles tribute band? Elton John, I think.
It was Elton John, where they just started just jamming out, man. And I was like, good Lord, that's really cool how they just went into that.
Take that into length.
And they also did You Won't Get Fooled Again.
That's right. I forgot the Who song.
Yeah.
When the levee breaks,
When the Levee Breaks,
it's such a great song. They kept somewhat true to it, but not true to it. It's on YouTube, and like I said, they're raising money for world causes. But there's the foghorn again, coming
There's
back.
That foghorn.
But that was, ironically enough,
Be there, be square.
And Led Zeppelin, like a lot of the '60s bands, and I'm going to use the word "rip off," would rip off all these blues artists' songs, and really not give them credit for it. Or do a lot of rip-offs of it. Led Zeppelin, on most of their albums, would have a couple blues covers, as would the Stones. And I give both of those bands credit because they would give the bands credit.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the ironic thing about, and you may or may not know this, is When the Levee Breaks was by an artist called Memphis Minnie, actually a female guitarist and singer. from the 30s, 40s mainly is where she had her start, which wrote that song.
Really?
Yep, wrote that song. And, wasn't uncommon to have a female singer.
Right,
Very
but then
uncommon
Led
to have
Zeppelin...
very uncommon to have a female
Then Led
guitarist
Zeppelin decided that they were going to just
record that
do it?
song. And I've got, I would imagine most of that came out on 78, so when Memphis Midi was recording that stuff.
Yeah.
But I have a CD compilation of it's probably all her works of Memphis Mini's works, and it's pretty true to it.
Really?
Led Zeppelin does. You don't see much of a variation like in the tempo or the key or anything like that. And listen to some of her other stuff, but it's pretty brilliant guitar playing.
Was the way she performed When the Levee Breaks just like Led Zeppelin performed it?
Not just like, but similar. Where you're not going, what song is that? Or anything like that. I would say the key's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
The tempo's pretty close, things like that.
So if you compared them, to get, you listen to that and then you listen to Led Zeppelin, you're going to be able to tell a little bit that is the same song you just listened to.
You would most certainly know it's the same song, So, now granted...
I don't know the lyrics.
Now granted, I think that woman, she probably made more money off that, because I think she was probably... I think I looked this up before we started it. Maybe in the 80s she was still alive, okay? That she was probably still alive at that point in time. And I bet you she made more money off the royalties from writing that song than probably her whole... I don't know that for sure, but, as big as that album was, Led Zeppelin 3.
Yeah.
I think it was off Led Zeppelin 3, wasn't it? If memory serves me.
When the Levee Breaks?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was off 3.
Yeah, I think so.
But as successful as that album is, I would have to guess that and they gave her writing credit, because I looked it up, they gave her writing credit for that she probably made more on that than probably just about in it.
God.
In her career, you would think so.
That's amazing, man.
With that being said, we're going to probably have to, start wrapping it up, Rob. But if people want to, like you alluded to earlier, leave us ideas in the comments.
We'd love to talk.
Right, and as we could tell. And, next time if you had questions or things of that nature, we would be happy to address them. Or
absolutely.
Comments about what we talked about. Or you want to go back to the Rush episode, correct us on something. We love music. We're not an expert on anything. I would like to say that I know a little bit about a lot, that both of us know a little bit about a lot, but it's mainly lovers of music. I am no expert on, and Rob's no expert on one specific thing. We're just lovers of music and like to talk. So with that being said,
and the more we drink, sometimes we forget things,
or
we'll doze off and go somewhere else.
And Rob's about to doze off.
No, with that being said, we appreciate y'all listening to us today and watching us today. And if there's anything, like I said, if you don't like what John is wearing or what I'm wearing,
we don't care.
We don't really care. But you can always buy our stuff online. We will have sooner or later. We will have the Wise Guys with the Z shirts made, but that's going to be probably a long time off. So I would probably say it's going to be 10 years.
Or Rob's hemorrhoid cream.
Or my hemorrhoid cream. The hemorrhoid cream is really, really good. I'm telling you, don't eat spicy foods because you'll have to use that hemorrhoid cream. But listen, guys, we really appreciate you listening to us today. John and I, like he said, we're always here to answer any questions that you have. If you want to criticize us for anything, you're welcome to do that as well. Because that's how we learn. It's how we do things. We love all you, and we love drinking beer. Y'all take care.
And next week, we're going to be talking about the great Canadian band Japan.
We'll be talking about Japan, and that will probably be a topic for Japan that we'll touch on for maybe 3 seconds.
Okay, we'll see.
And then we'll transfer over to Europe.
All right.
With the final countdown. And okay, so we don't know how to end this.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We don't know how to end it. Yeah. We're okay.